Yeah, he's
Nice.
he likes listening to people's conversations. He's a bit of a perv.
Oh, Greg, come on, dude. What are you doing? Jeez.
And he's a bear, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I can't bear this anymore. That's
I know.
terrifying.
that was a good one. I'll let that slide.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, I'm ready to go when you are.
Dude, anytime.
Welcome to the Tiger Nexus Podcast, a place where you'll find interviews with content creators and geeks alike. Your host, Ty Tiger, has delved upon the Nexus and found interesting content creators and geeks of all fandoms. This podcast is connected to the Zero Hero Network. And now we dive in with another episode!
Hey guys, just a quick little note from me before we dive into today's episode. Today my guest is Adam from the Adam Talks podcast, and we did a guest swap. So, as you can see, he's been a guest on this podcast. You can listen to the interview in just a few seconds, and we did a guest swap, meaning that I've been on his podcast. So after this episode, make sure you check out the Adam Talks podcast, where you'll hear his interview where he interviews me, and we talk about this podcast, the Tiger Nexus podcast, but we also talk about Tiger Tales, my audio dramas, and other few things. He does come up with some really cool and interesting questions, and it was an absolute blast. Some of these questions I've never been asked before as well, so it was really cool. So yeah, make sure you check out the Adam Talks podcast so you can hear me be interviewed by Adam, and of course share the love for podcasts, share the love for Adam, because he is honestly such a cool dude. It was a blast talking to him on his podcast, so make sure you check it out after this episode. That's the Adam Talks podcast. Now, let's go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Tiger Nexus podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Ty Tiger. Today I have a fellow podcaster. I have the host of Adam Talks podcast. Adam, hello mate, how are you?
How's it going, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, dude. How's things 6 hours ago?
No, things are great in the past. You know, I'm very happy about that. You know, I'm thinking that you're like 6 minutes older than me at the moment, because 6 hours earlier, I'm sorry, older than me. But you know, it's doing good here. It's been kind of cloudy and stuff, and it rained yesterday. It was supposed to rain all day today, but it's not. But you know, I've just been relaxing, playing some Callisto Protocol, and chilling. You know, what are you been up to?
I live in the UK. It's 90% rain, 2% sunshine, 8% clouds, and the rest of the time people threaten it's going to snow when it never will snow. So for me, it's just always miserable weather, weather-wise. But yeah, it's been good. I've just been editing like no tomorrow. As of uploading this video, my son's birthday was last week, but as of recording this video, my son's birthday is in a couple of days, so we're preparing for that. He's turning 6, and it's been a lot of excitement in the house. He's very excited, so it's just been setting that up more than anything else.
6 is a big one, man. 6 is a big one. You know what I mean?
It's scary to think he's closer to 10 than he is 0. That's a scary image in my head.
I'm telling you, I have a 14-year-old, so I definitely understand looking at him and being like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be this old, you know? You're not supposed to be getting old this fast, you know? How has 14 years already gone by? I remember you and you were like 4, and I thought that was like yesterday. What is happening, you know?
I used to think time used to fly past, and then I had a kid, and now time definitely goes fast. Like, you know, going through school, I used to think, oh, you know, it's been a year already. Oh my god, now I'm like, hang on, it's been a fucking year. When did the year go? Like, I had a Facebook memory come up today. I went to Comic-Con a year ago today, my very first Comic-Con a year ago today, and I'm sat there looking at the pictures going, really? That was a year ago? I swear to God, that was 3 months ago. Like,
Same.
it's mental.
I took my wife to her first Comic-Con, I think last year or something, and I look at these pictures, I'm like, hang on, wait a minute, what? No, that's not that's not real. You know, it couldn't have been a year ago that she went to her first Comic-Con, and now she's this wonderful, beautiful woman that collects Pokemon and Funko Pops. And, what happened? How did all this go? A year? Really? I feel like it's been longer than that. Sometimes it's like a opposite effect. Sometimes it's like, wait, it's been a year? How did that happen? That was yesterday. And other times it's like, no, come on. That was a little further back than that, wasn't it?
It's funny you mentioned the fact that your wife collects like Pokemon cards and Funko Pops now, because I've been with my fiance now for 4 years, and now that like it's me, her, and my son living under the same roof, I'm getting him into Pokemon and Power Rangers and stuff, and she's kind of been hanging in the background while she's been watching Pokemon, and she quite often says to my son, "Hey, I like the look of that one," and now she has Pokemon plushies and Funko Pops that are Disney related and things. She's kind of joined in on the geek squad in my house. You know, she's kind of part of the crew now. It's kind of funny.
Oh, dude, that's always the best. That's always the coolest. Because I've never had it. I don't know about you, but I've never had another person that I felt the way I do about my wife, that has been like willing to relate, you know what I mean? And come into your life and just be like, yeah, wait a minute, hold up, hang on. Because at first she was like, I don't like that stuff. I don't like, and then after, I don't know, a year or so, she's like, I can't stop buying Pokemon cards. I need more. I need more. It's all the time. It's that, or it's Funko Pops. But it's beautiful because I've never had anyone that I feel the way, like I said, anyone I love as much as I do my wife. I've never had anyone like that that's willing to give of themselves to be in your world. And I was telling her that earlier, and that's freaking awesome to me. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, one of the things that we've been doing is so the only thing my fiance was into before we got together was Disney, and she was more than anything The Lion King. That's her favorite thing of all time, which is my favorite movie, so we bonded over that. So over the last, I think it's been about 8 months, maybe 7, I kind of got her watching the MCU. So we've been watching the MCU from the beginning. We're now in the multiverse saga, where we're almost caught up, and it's amazing in two senses, because I get to watch someone experience this for the first time. When Endgame ended, she was absolutely gobsmacked. When Infinity War ended, she screamed at the TV and things like this, But like, she's also her own person, and it's insanely strange but fascinating at the same time, because we'll be watching all these films, and so like, for example, she didn't really like Captain America 1, or she thought it was cool, but like she just thought it was alright. Captain America 2 and 3, loved them. And it's the same with everything. She doesn't like origin movies, and I've clicked on this now. If it's an origin film, she just finds it okay. She's not really that bothered. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting, because she watched Spider-Man Homecoming, which isn't an origin movie, and she was hurt. And I'm like, oh, it's origin movies you don't like. Okay. And it's just
you don't like how they became who they became.
Like, she's not really bothered. She just wants to get to the point. And it's just like, okay, this is cool. I like this. The different take on a Marvel fan. It's really intriguing.
Oh my gosh. My wife, I got, originally, she didn't want to have anything to do with heroes, and she still has not. This is something that's very difficult for me at times. Not all the time, and it's not like serious or anything, but sometimes the guy just wants to watch Star Wars, and she absolutely will not give Star Wars a chance. She said, maybe one day I'll watch it, but that day is not today. But she hates Star Wars, so that sucks. But we got originally, I found out that she liked watching Arrow. I had put it on TV, and I was watching Arrow, and just started it from the beginning, because I had gotten to, I think, season 3 or something, then stopped watching. So I was like, I'll just watch it all over again. It don't matter. It's just 3 seasons. I can catch up. And we watched all 8 seasons of that. Like, didn't watch any of the other shows. I started watching The Flash, because The Flash, dude, that show is my show. After that, but she didn't watch much of that, But since then, she's watched Gotham all the way through seasons 1 to 5, Smallville seasons 1 to 10 on Hulu with freaking ads. So we had to live through ads and stuff in it. All of Arrow, like I said, all of that. She's watched the complete Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. All 3 of those movies she's watched. But she's also watched the original Justice League. But she won't give Star Wars or Star Trek a chance. So I'm just like, just waiting for that day when I get the chance to let her experience Anakin's story in the prequels. You know.
See, with DC, my fiance really isn't into dark, gritty stuff. Like, there's definitely over the 4 years that we've been together, she's shocked me. Like, I found out she's watched the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and I'm like, you've never played the games, what the fuck are you doing? But she likes them, so we've watched all 3 of them. She liked the Hunger Games movies. I'm like, what the? It's about war. What are you doing? Who are you? You know, and so that kind of got me thinking, okay, maybe she'll like superheroes, but she don't do anything dark and gritty. She won't watch horrors or anything like that. So like DC movies are more leaning towards that than Marvel movies do. And when it comes to the new Superman that's coming out, I'm thinking to myself, what if this is a good introduction for her to get into DC? Because, you know, looking at the trailer, yeah, okay, you know, Superman's got his ass kicked in, but that happens in Marvel. You know, there's no different. But like, it's bright, it's colorful, it's, you know, just like the Marvel movie. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe I'll bring her along and see what she thinks.
Yeah, man, I understand that. You know, she definitely wouldn't be into the darker. You know, I'm not like a diehard Snyder. Like, I'm not one of those guys that have been like, we want Snyder, we need him, holding signs up and making hour-long posts about it or anything. But I have said that I'm a big-time Zack Snyder fan. I'm just not like hardcore, you know what I mean? But I loved Man of Steel. The neck breaking at the end was questionable on Superman's part. I guess in their mind, he had to. There was no other way. Zod was going to keep killing people. But I mean, maybe not. You know, I don't know. Maybe he could have done it different. But I loved Man of Steel. Batman vs Superman, probably my favorite DC EU movie, and then Zack Snyder's Justice League. Dude, I thought it all was just beautiful. I loved how dark it was. I loved how edgy it was, how gritty it was. I like the deep colors, and I liked it whenever the colors were muted at times. You know, a little bit more. And I thought the stories were just really good. But my wife is a fan of horror. Just explaining all of the style of that movie, and I think that's kind of why she gave those movies a chance. You know, she didn't like them. She thought Jason Momoa and Henry Cavill were sexy, but you know, apart from that, she didn't. I don't think she really liked the stories of it, but she remembered parts of it. So we went back and we watched something else that was similar, and that's, like I said, where she got hooked in on Arrow. But I don't think she likes watching those bright things either. You know what I mean? So our ladies are kind of opposite in that way, I guess. You know? Yeah. Because she won't watch Marvel movies, man. She's watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's as far into Marvel as we've gotten. So.
I still need to finish Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've still got one more season to watch.
We're still watching it too, so you're not in the dark on that one. You're not alone on that one. You know, I haven't finished it, and I've watched just pieces of it because she'd watch it sometimes whenever she was home, and I hadn't got home from work yet or whatever. So I didn't get to watch all of it, but she would fill me in on stuff. So, but it's a really cool show. It's unique. It's different. You know, kind of shows you what happens right after the Avengers first movie or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, sadly, I know how it ends. It got spoiled for me. Welcome to the wonderful world of the internet. But I still want to at least finish it off because I'm really bad at watching TV shows. ADHD brain. I can't focus on a TV show for more than 2 seconds. So I've kind of made it my goal in 2025 to catch up on everything. And so far, I've done the 3 Walking Dead spin-offs, The Boys, and I'm now on Invincible. I'm almost finished. I'm almost up to date with Invincible, which is pretty cool. So I'm slowly catching up on all these shows.
I hear you, man. Out of all of those shows, I think the only one I've watched, maybe, yeah, I really haven't watched The Walking Dead at all. But I've watched, I think, my brain just blanked. Oh yeah, I've watched The Boys. I've watched a little bit of The Boys. I haven't watched hardly any of that. But that world is so crazy, and I think because it's dark, but it allows comedy into it, that might be what it is. Because I like those kinds of shows. But also, I love superheroes. So why wouldn't I want to watch this super dark, super ugly superhero show with amazing effects and great actors? It wouldn't make sense not to try to watch it.
Yeah, it just takes me a while to like sit down. But the thing is, I've figured out a way to on my PC to have it so I've got one screen where I can watch something, and then the other screen I can write or edit. So I'm doing stuff whilst watching. But like I'll write a chapter for Tiger Tales or something whilst watching something. So it kind of I kind of can kill two birds with one stone, so to speak.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Watching something that gives you like, oh, this might be a good way to change this to make this story change and work out. I could see how that would work. I do something similar whenever I'm making my audio dramas. Like I was making a horror audio. I was writing a horror audio drama, the first one I ever did. And in order to find the right dialogue and the right tone and the right feel for the lines, and even parts of the story, I was listening to nothing but horror audio dramas online, mainly this show called The Hotel. If you're into horror, dude, I would check that out because they do such a good job. The Hotel, freaking, it's great. It has different characters and stuff in it, but it's about this hotel. And I don't know exactly what The Hotel is, but I would say it's a version of hell or a part of hell or something of that nature, because no one who goes into the hotel leaves the hotel. They all die there, basically. And it's just interesting the different stories that are in this. And I think it encircles someone named the Lobby Boy, the manager, the owner, and then the hotel herself later on in the show. But it's one that I've listened to help do that. But also, whenever I was writing my superhero audio dramas, I would do the same thing with those. I would put I'd be listening to these audio dramas like I think it's a Wolverine one that Marvel made that I really liked. I can't remember what it was, but the Wastelanders series is really good. It's got like 5 chapters. It has like Hawkeye, Rocket and Star-Lord, Wolverine, Black Widow. That may be all of them. And then the final one's, I guess, the big team up at the end. And it's really good. Like, so good voice acting, such good stories. And when I was writing my hero audio dramas, I listened to those as well. When I wrote my Batman audio drama, I had just finished checking out, like researching what the storyboards for Justice League 2 and 3 would have been. So I found out, where this was supposed to lead, what the time frame was, and I built this story of Ben Affleck's Batman within it. And it all led to what happened at the beginning of the second part of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I can understand getting ideas from different things, and by no means am I saying copying what they're doing, but being like, this is a different way of doing this. I can see, all right, so maybe not this character, but this character could do this. You find out about different things like that. You get into the mindsets of the characters, I would say, probably a little better when you're doing it. I can see that, man.
Yeah, it just comes in handy. Like, I recently rewatched The Orville, which I absolutely adore that show. And me and the Three Ranger Bros have a space story, like a space exploration story, which we haven't really done much of. And rewatching The Orville, I kind of had a few ideas, and I was like, okay, I really need to like start writing this space exploration story again. So once I'm finished with the chapter I'm on that I'm in the middle of writing, I think I'm going to start writing the space exploration story because the Orville inspired me.
Right on, man. Heck yeah. I'm doing a space story as well. It's coming out in September, and I'm really excited about it. You know, it's one I did a while back that I've kind of edited the sound on, took some pieces out of that didn't make sense to have in it, and it's still almost a 2-hour audio drama. So it's the first part of 3. Like I said, I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I've even watched some of Battlestar Galactica, and I threw some elements of that into the ideas of it. And it's called the Ace Chronicles, the long chapter 1, the long journey. It's a lot of it's a lot more easy to digest the way I did it with this. The things that I took out, it was a lot of filler, and you didn't need to know about all of this extra stuff that I had in the original. And you can still go and listen to the original if you look up Shirley Boy Entertainment and then find the Ace Chronicles, or even just look up the Ace Chronicles. It's still online in its full version, but what I did with it made it a lot easier to digest. I feel like sometimes people want people to know the world so much that they don't let them explore the world with the characters, and I think that's what I was trying to do. You know this is what happened here. This is who each of these people are, but you only see like one of them later in the story or two of them. So why am I introducing these people? And then you get to meet all the bad guys, the big bad guys, and what they're about and who they are. You'll find out by reputation who these guys are and what they do. You know, why do I need to tell everybody everything? Is it hard for you not to do that? I don't know. Is it just me? For you not to overtell and let people live in this world with these characters?
Yeah, for some of my stories, for sure. Funny enough, 2 of the stories that are on Tiger Tales, I'm actually redoing. So I've got a Buffy the Vampire Slayer story that is kind of a crossover with the Teen Wolf TV show. And the way that I've done it, I'm now at a point where I'm not liking how it's going, and so I spoke to Cosplay Dude 637, who's also a big fan of Buffy, and we kind of spoke about it, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna redo this. So like, because I'm 12 chapters in or something like that, they're all about in between 10 to 20 minutes long, and I think about. So I'm about 12 chapters in. I think about 7 of those chapters are just me waffling about crap you don't need to know, things just happening because they happen. It's just like, why is this happening? There's no need. So I'm redoing it because it's just like, it's now just annoying me.
I understand. Like I said, dude, it got to the point where I was listening to it. I was like, God, is this ever going to end? I understand why I put it in here, but maybe they don't need to know everything, you know? There's a point when it's like, this is too much. When is the story going to start? Come on. When are we going to see more things happen? When are different stuff? I mean, I don't need to know who this guy is. This guy. I don't care about that. This story is called Ace Chronicles. Why am I hearing about everybody else and not hearing from him or about him or what he's done or anything like that, you know? So I went back and I did some cutting on it. You know, I took it from, I think, a little more than 2 hours to a little under 2 hours. So I may have taken like 5 to 10 minutes of audio out of it or something. But when the action gets rolling on this thing, man, I think it's awesome. I think it's a really cool story. So I'm ready. I'm excited for everybody to be able to hear this one. I'm excited for everybody to hear about all the audio dramas I have at Charlie Boy Entertainment coming out. Because, dude, these are things we've worked on for, like, I want to say a year, maybe a little more than a year. No, almost a year. Because I met the guys that I've done some of these comics for 2 years ago at a Comic-Con in Fort Smith, Arkansas. My last wrestling event. And a little after that, I was like, can I make an audio drama out of your comics? And they luckily both said yes. So one I finished at a pretty decent speed, and the other one I just finished like a couple weeks ago. So it's taken almost a year to get everything I needed done, and make my original characters, getting my original character stories done to debut them online, and build our hero universe of audio dramas. But man, that's tough for me making an original character. You know, trying to find the quirks in this character, trying to find the personality in the character and the right way to show them through the dialogue, through their actions, and what they do in situations. I think that's sometimes difficult for me.
So now that we're on the topic of, audio dramas and stuff, what actually got you writing and what got you turning your writing into audio dramas?
Man, when I was a kid, like 6th grade, I written a horror. I'd started writing, like I wrote like a chapter and a half of this horror book I wanted to write, but I didn't know anything about structuring or anything like that then. I didn't know you needed a long game. It couldn't just be going. This is what's going to happen. And this and this and that. You can't have that. And I didn't know that, obviously. I was in 6th grade. How would you know? Whenever you're like, I don't know, 12, whatever I was. And that's what got me started writing initially, because I was like, I love this. I love being able to create characters. And that's when I knew I needed to, I knew I could create stuff. But it took a good, I don't know, took a good little bit, maybe another year or so before I actually created my own first comic character or anything like that. And after a little while, me and my friends talked, and me and my friend Glenn Lewis, made this comic book company, and his brother Michael helped us make this comic book brand, right? And we did this within our entertainment bubble that we were trying to make stuff for. We did these stories, we did this and that, but from that point forward, it took about around 5 years, and I released a couple, I want to say 3 original short films that were nothing to watch. Trust me when I say they were nothing to watch. They were just not good. So we continued to try to make movies, any kinds that I was willing to write and stuff. And after a little while, I found out about audio dramas. I did not know what they were. I was online and I was looking up stuff. I was like, I was on YouTube. I was like, I wish I could just find something like a story I could listen to. It was like audiobook. I don't want it to be read to me. I want like a radio drama or something, and I went on YouTube originally just looking for maybe classic Superman from the 40s radio show or whatever. And I ended up stumbling across, I think, my favorite audio drama I've listened to. And it's called Justice League Immortal. It's about the canceled George Miller Justice League movie they were trying to make in 2008. They had a different Batman, different Superman. They had an original cast with Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Wally West, Flash. No, it was Barry Allen Flash. Anyways, I listened to this audio drama and I was like, dude, I think I could do something like this. And I found it, and I was like, I want to write something. So I started trying to make, my own audio dramas, and that's, I think, where the love for doing that started. Is finding out that there is something you can listen to, that you get a movie in your mind, and you already know these characters. So, and even if you don't, you can envision your vision of the character. If you don't have anybody, like any cover art or any video to go with it or anything like that, you can envision these characters and be like, oh, wow, okay, I know what these characters look like, so I can imagine these look like this. Even if you're way off, this movie is going to play in your head. And I wanted to be able to do something like that. So between the time of me making those first movies and finding out about these audio dramas, I had made those other audio dramas. Oh, no. I'm sorry, I made those other audio dramas after I found the thing, and I was still trying to make movies, but I realized, dude, it was too hard to find a cast, match up schedules. Can't ask for time off of work because you ain't working, you ain't getting paid, and money is a real thing. You know, whenever you don't have it, you don't have it, and it doesn't work. So, trying to find a way around people's schedules, trying to get time with everybody that we needed time with, and get people together. It turned out to be too difficult to do as movies, right? So I talked to everybody. And I was like, I think we should just make audio dramas because I think we could do that way better if we want to. I'm still cool with shooting shorts, not short films, but shorts like 5-10 minutes at max, something like that. But I'm not really looking to do movies all the time if we can't do what we need to do the characters and their world justice. But that's kind of what got me into doing audio dramas all the time instead of doing anything else. And that was a real long-winded explanation. I do apologize for that.
No, that's fine. I'm really glad I'm not the only one who didn't know what like audio dramas were a thing until they stumbled upon it and then did it themselves. Because I'm in a similar boat. I didn't know audio dramas were a thing. I have this my own universe, my own stories I wanted to tell, and my parents have tried to write a book and get it published. And I saw like how stressful that was, and then I met Cosplay Dude 67 who uploads his fan fiction or audio dramas onto podcast platforms like Spotify and things, and I was like, oh my god, that's such a cool idea. I actually spoke to him, he kind of explained like how he does it and things. I was like, I think I can do this. I'm very good at explaining things. To this day, everyone, like my loyal listeners, always say they've really enjoyed my fight scenes. Apparently, I'm very good at the action side of things. I'm very good at making it so that you can actually like envision, let's say it's Spider-Man versus Green Goblin. I can write a fight scene and people can actually envision how it's going in their heads. So like I've got that going for me, thankfully. But I didn't know audio dramas were a thing. I know audiobook. Someone getting a book and reading it, and then it gets posted somewhere and you have to pay for it to listen to a book, so you don't have to read it. I knew that was a thing, but audio dramas, that was new to me. So I'm glad I'm not alone in there.
Like I said, I wanted to find just something to listen to, because whenever you're at work, sometimes music is not the thing you want to listen to. And at the time I was working at a grocery store and I was stocking stuff, and I was just like, I need to find something that I can listen to, and I don't want to listen to the same music that I have on my phone over and over. I don't want to get Spotify or anything like that, and I don't want Pandora. I just want to listen to this. I want to watch a movie, and I can't watch a movie on my phone while I work. So what could I do? Oh yeah, that's right. They had those radio shows back before TVs were around. Maybe I could find some of those. And looking into looking into Superman, see if there's Batman ones, Green Arrow ones, or even just some Robin Hood, the Lord of the Rings, anything to be able to listen to it. And I think the first one that I found, apart from that Justice League Mortal, was I found the original, like they had this radio show for the original Star Wars trilogy. So New Hope, Return of the Jedi, or Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. In the 80s, they had made like radio dramas for all of the movies. So you can listen to Star Wars 6, 7, and 8, or whatever. You can listen to all of those while you're working, while you're doing whatever. And for me, as a Star Wars fan, dude, it was awesome being able to just put up stuff and be able to live in the galaxy far, far away while I'm working. But like I said, I just looked for old stuff because I was like, back in the 30s and 20s, man, radio was everything. So there's got to be recordings of it somewhere. I want to hear what that sounded like. And I ended up stumbling upon all these other awesome audio dramas, and I was hooked from that point forward. And yeah, man, there was no going back. I still listen to audio dramas today. Much like yours, I listen to your audio drama at times too, like when I'm feeling superhero-y. But here lately, like we were talking about earlier, I've been writing this horror audio drama. So I've listened to The White Vault and The Hotel. I've also listened to one called Defiled, I think, and Derelict. But it wasn't Derelict. It was season 1 of I forget what this series was, but it's those are all really good horror audio dramas that I've listened to since deciding to write a horror audio drama. That's what I've been listening to lately. Before that, like I said, it was a lot of Marvel. I listened to Harley Quinn and Joker. I listened to the Riddler one, Batman Unburied. What is it? Scyther Productions, The Long Halloween. It's another one I listened to. The X-Men the audio drama by Scyther Productions. So I've listened to a lot of everything. And then obviously I just listen to podcasts too, because who doesn't like listening to some interesting stuff, you know?
If you listen to Scyther Audio, you will recognize my Deadpool voice actor. So I'm not fully up to date on the podcast side of things on Universe yet. The YouTube side of things there's more on YouTube. I'm still updating the podcast, almost there, and I have a Deadpool story. He teams up with a DC character, and the voice actor for Deadpool is actually from Scyther Audio.
I thought so. It sounded very familiar, and he even mentioned Carl in the in his line. I was like, cool. You know?
It's Nate from Scyther Audio, and when I asked him, he said yeah, and I said to him, look, here's the lines. And, you know, if you want to go full... He asked me, how much Deadpool can I be? And I asked him to kind of like, what does he mean? Like define your question. And he went, well, you know, Deadpool knows he's a fourth wall. You know, he breaks the fourth wall. He knows he's a comic book character. He's jokey. He's darkly minded. Like, how much Deadpool... I was like, my exact response was, knock yourself out.
Go for it, kid.
So like there'll be a line that I send him which is like 5 words. I'll get a 2-minute voice recording back, and it's like a whole monologue. I was like, I'm keeping that. I don't fucking care. I'm keeping it. I kept most of them. It was so funny, and I've told him, I was like, don't worry, the chapter 2's coming. I have to update the podcast before I'm writing any more installments. As soon as the podcast is done, I'm writing chapter 2, because getting him to record Deadpool was great. It was such a blast to talk to him. I'm hoping to get him on the podcast soon, because that would be really fucking cool.
Right on, man. Yeah, dude. That's awesome. I think they do phenomenal work over there at Psycho as well. You know what I mean? I've not listened to much of their stuff that I've been like, you know, really none of it, you know, from their casting of, oh my God, what's his name? Armory Rose. I think that's his name. The guy that plays Cyclops, and the guy that does Logan. I always think Hank is spot on. You know, Jean Grey was great, and I found out she was putting on an American accent for that, and I was like, that is even cooler, you know, because, you know, I know that as an American, I probably don't ever have the best accent, but I try my best because in parts that I play people from other places, you know. So I'm sure that's just as hard for her to do that same thing and put on a accent for somewhere else, because I had to really look into the cast, and I was like, no, she's not from wherever it was. I can't remember where she's from, and that really hurts my heart, because I was really interested. I think I messaged her to try to get her on my podcast, but most of the time you don't get responses when you want them. So
yeah. So going into you know, I mentioned that I want to get Nate on for my podcast. Going on to the podcast side of things, obviously you have your own Adam Talks podcast.
Yeah.
What started the podcast exactly?
Man, I've had podcasts in the past whenever I was running my own backyard wrestling promotion, and I would do podcasts on there as a ring announcer character named Tom Tomlin that I portrayed. That's a really cheesy name, but I was 17 when I made it up. So he's been my commentator and stuff. Well, I was like, you know what would be cool is if we did a podcast, because I started seeing like Talk is Jericho and the Broken Skull sessions, other wrestling podcasts like that. And I found out that, it's not hard to do a podcast. It's just recording. It's just doing this and that. And it's free to upload onto like Spotify and this sort of thing. So I was like, dude, I could do that. Why don't I do that? And that's where that idea for the wrestling ones came from. Doing other podcasts came from ADHD and being bored and wanting to talk and not having anybody to talk to. So I was like, I'll just talk to whoever will listen. And I kind of did that sort of thing for a little bit. And then I didn't podcast for a long time. And then I started this. This is my third season right now. So at some point throughout the year, it'll be year 3 of podcasting. And it's really cool being able to podcast. I'm very happy that I get to podcast, I get to talk and do what I need to do in order to have a successful show. I'm not saying I'm big time or anything like that, because obviously not. But I think the thought at the beginning, like I talked to you about before we got on here, that I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry for coughing and everything. Allergies are kicking my butt. So basically, I got on here and I was like, I'm going to do a podcast where I can talk about what I want to talk about. And every other week, I'm going to bring either a family member of mine or a friend on. Because if I can do that, and that's super easy, super simple, it's no stress, no pressure, then it's not going to hurt my mental health. It's not going to make me feel overwhelmed or anything. Then my brother was over one day and he told me, he was like, why don't you ask some of these local MMA fighters or some people that you wrestle with, like professional wrestlers on or anything like that. I'm like, dude, they won't talk to me. They're famous because, even local famous people that are famous to your area is like, I don't know about you, but for me, it was like uber nerve-wracking to message people that I haven't met before, haven't talked to, just being like, hey, I have a podcast. I was just going to see if you'd come on, But it was scary for me before my brother talked to me. And what he said that changed my mind was, dude, they're just people. And since that point, since me realizing, hey, these guys are just normal, everyday Joes, Jills and Joes, or Jackson Jills, whatever you want to say. Everyday normal guys and gals. They have a life. They're not always turned up to 30 whenever it comes to being whatever persona or personality it is, whether they're a singer, whether they're an author, actor, professional wrestler, professional fighter. It doesn't matter what they are. They're not always that personality. They're themselves too. And some people are just like their personas in whatever field they're in. But for me, it was really stressful. It was really scary trying to turn on or trying to talk to these people that I thought would never say a word to me. After that, though, pretty much the show has not changed. I've had some ups and downs as far as releasing stuff, as far as scheduling at times, and that's stressful in itself. But also there was other things that made it hard. But I think the reason why I started, the reason why I've been consistent about it, is because it's something fun. I think the main thing about podcasts, unless you're doing like a teaching session or something like that, or you're trying to be instructive about things, the best thing to do is have fun on your podcast. Have an interesting conversation. Have a meaningful conversation, you know? And if it's something you want to talk about, find someone who is willing to talk to you about whatever it is you want to talk about. I know sometimes you can do episodes where it's just you and you're talking about something that's close to your heart or something that you might want to let out. But for me, my show's an interview show. You know, I talk to people. That's what it's classified as. You know, I just have people on and I'll talk to them. But other people have other kinds of shows, you know what I mean, where they review things and this and that. I think the main thing is no matter what it is you're doing, be passionate about it and have fun with whatever it is you're doing, because it'll show through your product if you don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to getting a guest, you know, talking to people and stuff, do you still ever have those, like, you know, that little bit of a nervous niggle, you know, that, like, you know, what if they don't respond, or, you know, what if they say no, or, you know, what if they completely shut me down? Do you still have that sort of, like, nervousness sometimes, or do you think you're pretty confident in, you know, if someone says, nah, sorry, I don't have time, or, you know, sorry, that doesn't interest me, you pretty confident that, okay, yeah, that's cool?
You know, I don't think I've had an emotional moment whenever people aren't are responding in a way I don't want them to. Like, obviously, if I'm asking you to come on, I want you to come on. I wouldn't ask otherwise. So, yeah, it sucks. But I can't remember a time whenever I've had a response like, where it's like, well, why not? Why won't you come on my show? Or whatever, you know, I haven't had a big emotional moment like that. I don't think, since I've been doing it. I think the response isn't, oh yeah, whatever, okay, cool, for me either, though. I think it's kind of in the middle, because yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it really does. Whenever you're planning on this episode and you've talked to these people and you've had all these people on, and this has been scheduled for X amount of time, and you're like looking forward to it, then the day comes, or then a moment comes and they're like, hey, I gotta reschedule. That sucks, I think, worse than being rejected. Because I think I've had a lot of rejection in my life, you know, so dealing with that rejection has helped me to understand I'm not at the top of everybody's list as far as coming onto my show. That, you know, I'm not a big fish in any pond. I'm a very small fish in the ocean, and I'm just trying to make it by. You know what I mean? So if I'm like, hey, you want to come on my show? These are the dates I have available. I hope to hear back from you soon. Just let me know. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and God bless you. That's my normal message, because I want it to be professional. I want it to be something that they can see. Hey, this guy's not just asking me. I'm not just going, hey, I hope you come on my podcast. It'd be a really awesome time. I'm really excited about it. If you do, if you say yes, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can promise you that. You know, I'll be open to any days. And that's how I was originally. But I think people want that come on. They want you to be personable, but they want you to be professional too, you know? So I changed my approach after I talked to a businessman at Arkansas Comic-Con. He's like a manager for this anime voice actress, and I don't know her name. I'm not going to even lie. I do not know her name, and I don't know the characters she played, but I do know that she was at the Comic-Con, and I talked to her and I asked her a question. Anytime I go to Comic-Con, I like to meet the vendor and I like to ask them a question. And then that's a door for me to show that I'm interested in what they do, not just the surface level of it, but asking if, you know, they'd be interested in even coming on my podcast. Well, apart from doing that, I said, I'll, you know, let me know what dates you're available, and I would love to have you on. Just let me know what day or whatever. That was my main go-to. But after I talked to this guy, he said, yeah, let me give you some advice, man. And I'm not being rude or anything, but, you know, why would you say, yeah, I'd really be excited about it, you coming on, instead of saying, hey, I would love to have you on my show. I'd love to help promote whatever it is you got going on. And if you can, here's my dates that I have available. I hope our schedules can match up, and I hope to hear from you soon. You see how that sounds more professional? I was like, yeah, man, that sounded really professional. It wasn't like me just going like a fanboy, even though I may be fanboying out about things. You know what I'm saying? I've met wrestlers, professional wrestlers, that I'd love to have on my podcast. But fanboying out in front of them, being like, "Oh my god, this is so cool! I've watched you on TV since I was like 7, and I'd really want you on my podcast." Sounds a lot worse than just being like, "Oh hey."
Yeah, I think that is definitely if you're doing the type of podcast that we do, you're an interview type podcast, so am I. I think there's a way to go around it. Obviously, it's different for everybody. For me, when I contact someone, I kind of message you kind of something similar when we first started talking. I tell people, like, hey, I've got a podcast. It's called this if you want to check it out. But, I'm all about talking to content creators, pushing their content out there, finding out, really cool fun facts about people. Just having some fun, just an hour, that's all I need. If you're interested, would you be down? Something on that bubble, and 90% of the time it works. I think for me, I've had one person. I'm not going to name names, obviously. I'm not going to bad mouth anybody, but I did find this one person live on TikTok. I was like, hey, I have a podcast, blah blah blah, and he was like, yeah, message me. So we contacted over Instagram, and they were asking me questions like, oh, okay, how do you record? And I was like, well, you see, I use Discord. I have this bot that is installed to a voice channel. And basically all you got to do, even if you don't have Discord, you're still able to join, because Discord has this feature where the voice channels you can send a link invite. Kind of then works like Skype or whatever else people use these days. That isn't Skype, but it basically then turns into Skype, and this person was like, oh no, I refuse to go on Discord. I'm like, oh no, you don't need Discord. I kind of reworded it then, and then he got so assy with me because I mentioned the word Discord, and he got so defensive and really argumentative, and that kind of ended that conversation there. I think that's the only time I've ever had a negative experience asking someone to come onto the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, they're all really receptive. But then other times, you get non-responses. And that's the discouraging part when you're like, for me, when I was, excuse me, goodness, I didn't mean to do that. But when you're doing the earlier episodes of my first few episodes of inviting people, the nerve-wracking thing was inviting people and then not getting a response, or having to wait months to get a response. It's really it gets on your nerves so bad. But like I said earlier, you can get over that because it's not anything big. They're just too busy. It's not anything against you. They've probably got a lot going on though, so they're not able to come on the show or whatever. I don't think I've had anybody get mad about me saying anything or not coming on the show because of anything, or having a big disagreement. I don't think I've ever had a big disagreement on a podcast when it comes to inviting guests on and everything. But I've had moments, plenty of moments, where I've asked people to come on and they're like, it's going to cost X amount. And I'm like, well, I'll put that on my list of guests I hope to be able to have money to invite on the show, And that's another thing. That's another thing I do is just, I made a list of wrestlers that are going to wrestlers right now, and one MMA fighter that'll cost money for me to have on the show. So, I don't know though. I don't know. How did you handle that? Did it really make you mad? Did it piss you off whenever he got all huffy?
I don't think I was mad, but I was more taken back more than anything because, I didn't get assy with him. I didn't get negative anyway. I tried to explain it in a different way, kind of because you don't need Discord to do what we're doing right now. You do not need Discord to do it. I can invite you into a group call, so you're not even on Discord itself, really. You're just a part of this video, like, because you can access video mode, technically, if you wanted to, and things like this. And he just wasn't having any of it. He actually blocked me, so I didn't have really much of a chance to respond. I then later spoke to someone who I'm friends with who knows the person personally, and then he told me that he gets very funny with, people that he doesn't know. He is quite snappy and things, so apparently it's in his nature just to get very defensive. And, like you said, people get busy, and I kind of take that with a lot of people. If he's just naturally like that, then okay, cool. He's not going to be on my podcast. That's fine too. I was more taken aback, I guess, because that's the first time that sort of thing happened. I've had a few declines, a few people have gone, nah, it's not for me, or sorry, I don't have time. Like today, one of the a reactor that I usually watch, he was live on YouTube for a little while, and he was doing a Q&A, and I messaged, I was like, hey dude, I have a podcast, I really want to talk to you, would you have time to sit down with me for 45 minutes, blah, blah, blah. And he just went, dude, I would love to. And you're like the 9th person to ask me if I could sit down on a podcast. I just do not have time. Like, I don't, like, the only reason why I'm doing this is because I'm waiting for a video to render. That is the only reason why I'm doing this right now. That it should have rendered by now, but I'm using a different laptop. That's the only reason why we're sat here talking right now. I was like, all right, fair enough. That's cool. Like, I'm down with that. He gave me a reason and stuff. For this, and he was nice about it and things. So I guess I was more shocked than anything else.
Yeah, man. I could understand that. Like, have you ever had it where you've messaged someone and they message you like, oh yeah, but then didn't message you after that?
Oh, no, right, okay. So this literally happened to me Friday. That literally happened to me Friday. So as people listening, we're currently recording this on Sunday. So I had planned 2 gaming YouTubers that are under 1,000 subscribers. They're both already up by now. You, and then another person who I met through TikTok. And we've been talking back and forth for a couple when my TikTok account got banned and I had to make a new one, he actually found me and messaged me again. I was very grateful for that. We planned it. We spoke about, by the way, it's on Discord. He said, yeah, he's already got Discord. I was like, sound. We found out there's 5 hours between us. So, we were trying to figure out like a day. I said to him, look, the best days for me, if, you're 5 hours behind me, and you can only do nighttime, is the weekends, because I don't have my son. He was like, yeah, that's fine. We can do weekends. We were talking about all sorts of stuff we could talk about. And Friday came, we planned for Friday night, and I gave him an hour. I always give, people time just in case they're late and things. I understand life happens, I completely get it. So I gave him an hour. I sent him the link, I sent him the invite, and then, after the hour, I said, hey dude, what's going on, ? And I still have not heard from the person. And I'm still sat here waiting. I was just
I'm not laughing because it's funny, man. I'm not. It's like, I've had the same sort of thing. Like, I messaged this one wrestler, and I've wrestled several female wrestlers, and I've had a couple respond and say yes or no. I messaged one of them though, and they're like, "Well, I'm not good for this day. Can we do it this day? Or I get off at this time?" And I was like, "Okay, sure, yeah. Let's figure something out." So the day came, and we got to that time, and I messaged her like, "You ready? I'm gonna send you the link." No response. And I have messaged this wrestler since, and still have not got a response. I've messaged this wrestler several times. So I understand that, and it's not like maddening, like frustrating, like super aggro or nothing. It's like, just like, well, all right. Maybe I'll get a response, Maybe I'll get a response here in a little bit.
Yeah, see, I think that, one thing that I've definitely learned doing this is you kind of have to accept that, just because we have the time to sit down for an hour or 2 hours or whatever to sit down and talk to someone doesn't mean everyone can do that. And so I'm currently in the works of having my first big time person on the podcast, someone that has a name for themselves type deal, but the issue there is I've been talking to them since September, and we've been talking since September, and because they're a big time person and they're really busy, I think we've only spoken about 9 times since September. And the person is down to be on the podcast. He just doesn't have the time. He's trying to figure out like his schedule and things. But like, I'll message him going, "Hey, what's your schedule looking for March?" And then I won't hear off him until like the middle of April.
Yeah, man, I understand that, man. I've had something similar as well to that. One MMA fighter I've asked to come on several times, and they like they'll respond to messages and stuff, and then it's like, yeah, they're like, I'm like, all right, so you want to try to schedule something? I message you back. This is just me messaging you back about it. He's like, oh man, yeah, I would, but I'm really busy. I've got this many fights this month. I thought I'd have time, but I don't. And then I was like, oh, it's okay. So I'll wait a couple months, and then I'll message him again. Hey, you're available for the podcast? And you come on. Oh man, I'm too busy, just too busy, So I completely understand that, and it's frustrating, but like it's the same kind of frustrating. It's like, well, maybe someday I'll get them on,
Yeah.
Maybe they'll come on eventually. So
yeah, I think you just kind of have to accept. Some people are going to be easier than others. I'm always down for being on podcasts. I love talking to people. I have my own podcast. So like, when we agreed to guest swap, because there's actually Nick that actually kind of highlighted your podcast for me, because when you interviewed Nick from Original Geek, I then also interviewed Nick. So we actually interviewed Nick around about the same time. And he actually kept doing posts on Facebook about like, "Hey, I've been on this podcast. Hey, 2 days later, hey, I've now been on 2 podcasts in 2 days," and things like this. And I think like in a span of like 8 days, he's on 3 different podcasts. It was mine, yours, and someone else's in like 8 days or something. So
Wow.
we actually we both had Nick around at the same time, and I messaged him and I was like, "Hey, who's this person like highlighting you?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, he's really cool, that's Adam." I was like, "Yeah, I'm listening to your podcast interview, it sounds really dope." So I checked out some of your episodes. I was like, he is so close to being similar to my podcast. I think we gel really well. And I was like, I'm gonna hit this dude up because I think it'd be so fucking cool. And that's why I messaged you going like, "Hey bro, we could totally like guest swap here. Like we have the perfect opportunity." And
Definitely.
thankfully, I'm really grateful that you were down to, guest swap and everything. I think it was really cool.
Oh, definitely, man. Yeah, I haven't been on many podcasts since I've started my podcast. So I think I did a wrestling interview on a wrestling podcast, one of my friends' podcasts. I did a little interview spot on. They interviewed me for the episode, and that was fun, But since I've just been podcasting and making audio dramas, I haven't had anybody. I haven't had anybody invite me on. So when you said, "Hey, you want to come on?" I'm like, dude, I'm a chatterbox. Of course, I want to come on. I love talking.
So I won't keep you for too much longer, but there's 2 things that I want to like get through. The first one is you mentioned you were a wrestler, so I kind of want to bring that up. So how did you get into being a wrestler, and how come you're not really a wrestler now?
Well, I've been into wrestling since I was 7 years old, and it was really cool when I was a kid. My dad and my uncle got me into wrestling, and every time a Monday would come on, there was a show on TNT called Monday Nitro. It was a WCW show, and you flipped over to USA and you had WWF Raw, or Raw is War, whatever it was called at the time. But we'd sit in the living room, and my dad would flip back and forth, and me and my brother would sit there and we would watch wrestling with my dad. WCW, then WWF, and that went on for a little while. My uncle would give me VHS tapes of Stone Cold Steve Austin, some ECW stuff because I've never seen ECW before that, and then it's just different wrestling stuff. And when I was watching WCW, I saw this wrestler named Rey Mysterio Jr., and he was 5'5", 5'6", something like that. And he was like 5'5", 5'6", something like that, and he could do all this high flying stuff, right? So he was able to bounce off the ropes, do some cool stuff, and he was my size, So I was like, if a guy that small can do this stuff, I'm going to be able to do it one day. And you fast forward 10 years from 7 to 17, me, my brother, my cousin, and one of my very best friends started a backyard wrestling promotion. And from 2007 to 2009, we were wrestling backyard. Then it stopped because people told me that they weren't interested in wrestling. They just did it because I loved doing it. So that was deflating for me. So you got to jump forward another 3 years from 2009 to 2012. And there was a little show that we started, and we had one match that we had made. And because we recorded matches separate, I never had an audience. We'd record it, we'd put it together, I'd edit everything on the computer and stuff, good old Windows Vista. But Microsoft Movie Maker and Windows Vista, God, dude, I had so many hours on that computer doing that, just editing videos. But anyways, had one match on there that we had recorded, and 3 episodes of like 5 minutes each, and they were just mainly interviews and things of that nature. So after that, it stopped again until 2016. In 2016, me and this kid that I had trained down the road from my house, I taught him how to backyard wrestle, how to do this and that. And I wasn't professionally trained or anything yet, but I was teaching him how to grapple up, how to do headlocks, how to fake punch, and this and that, because I didn't know you're really making contact at that point. It was all just hand on the head, hit the hand. And I taught him, I said, all right, I'm going to do this and you're going to do this. And it just taught him some small stuff. And we had a couple different, like 3-4 matches, maybe even 6 matches in that time from 2016 to 2017. And then 2017 to 2018 was a blank spot again. 2018 till 2020, I want to say 2018 to 2021, maybe. Yeah, I think that's right. It may have been January 2022. I don't know. We were semi-steady the whole time from that point on. And that's whenever we got really big. We had Jeremy Lewis, who's now a professional wrestler, Marcus Woods, former, my brother, the Flying Hawaiian, myself, Wayne McNeil, Trent Connors, the Gremlin. Apart from the Lynx is another one we had. Apart from the appearance of my brother, a legend like myself, making a return, we also had we saw people come back from 2009 time period. Axe Richardson, another wrestler, backyard wrestler in our old stuff, came back. And went until that point, 2021, we ended up wrestling on plywood on the ground with little gym mats on top of the plywood. And we'd take body slams on there. Well, I say we, I mean I'd take body slams on there. A lot of clotheslines, a lot of suplexes, just basic stuff. But 2018, I got my first bit of professional wrestling training, and it was the coolest thing ever. Like I said, I started watching it I started watching wrestling 1997. And I think I stopped about a year later, but then I came back to wrestling around 2004, the end of 2004 to probably 2008. And then 2017, I think was the first time I watched wrestling, and I've been semi-consistent watching wrestling ever since. So I've watched wrestling all throughout different eras. And it all started, the drive and the want to wrestle started from my dad and my uncle showing me these large in life characters, these people big and tall as a house to really small like I was. And just seeing all this stuff, I said, I want to do this one day. That's my dream, to be a professional wrestler. Fast forward to either the beginning of 2022 or the end of 2021, and we had our final event for my promotion, the SCCW. And after that, after that final event, me and Jeremy Lewis went on to do professional wrestling in 2022 in October. And since then, I've had 7 professional wrestling matches. After my second professional match, or after my last professional match in June, I want to say, of last year, maybe July, probably July of last year, in September, I was working on my car with my dad, and I was trying to put an alternator on because the alternator was in a real fucked up place and the car's like behind the engine. So it's a real stupid place for an alternator to be. That's what I'm going to say about that. Ford Focus, get your crap together back in the year 2006. Anyways, I was under the car. We had the car jacked up. We didn't have it on jack stands. I know I can hear any people that know about vehicles on the other end of this podcast listening saying, what the hell is wrong with you? Jack stands, always something under the car, but we didn't put anything under the car. That's not on him. That's not on me. That's on both of us. We should have put something under the car, but we didn't. The jack ended up rolling backwards, and the car landed on my sternum. Luckily, my wife and my dad was there to pick it up. They both were on the front of the car, and they reached underneath. They lifted it up, and I crawled out. And I was out of work almost a month. And when I went back to work, I was on light duty. I wasn't doing anything other than inspecting and this and that. But even before the accident happened, I was having trouble breathing in ring. I have asthma. I'm a smoker. I have allergies whenever seasonal changes happen. So I was in the ring wrestling with the very best wrestler I could have been in the ring across from back in December. Not this past December, last December, 2023 December. And I was wrestling Jeremy Lewis. And he picked me up and gave me a body slam. And when he did, everything was right. Everything was done correctly. He slammed me right, I made sure my chin was tucked. I was flat when I hit the ground, but I couldn't breathe. And I had taken a body slam hundreds of times from Jeremy Lewis, backyard wrestling and in a professional ring, so I can take a body slam, no problem. But I got body slammed this time and I could not breathe at all. Like out of breath completely. So I rolled out of the ring. And I took a breath. I was like, what the heck is going on with me? And then after the match, I went back behind the curtain and I couldn't catch my breath. I was coughing and I couldn't catch my breath. And they were like, are you okay? Because Glenn hadn't seen that. Jeremy Lewis hadn't seen me like that. He was checking on me. You okay? My wife was checking on me. I took an inhaler, and after a little bit, I calmed down enough not to be worried about it. But at that point, I was like, I'm 30. I'm 33 years old at that point. And I'm like, I'm 33 right now. I'm about to be 34 whenever the next match I have is. How long do I actually have to wrestle? And this is the stupidest. I feel like this is the stupidest thing you could say at as young age as I am. But my health has to come first. And if it hurts to get body slammed, and that's a simple move, I shouldn't be doing it. At least for a little while until I get as healthy as I could possibly get. So I wouldn't have my match in July, and the same thing happened. He picked me up and body slammed me, and I had to roll out of the ring to catch my breath. I couldn't breathe. It was like a sign, like you don't need to be wrestling for a little while at least. So that's kind of what made me stop wrestling. But when I was wrestling, it was like living a dream that I never thought I'd be able to live. It doesn't matter if I was just in a couple of local smaller promotions, I got to live that dream and am very happy that I had that chance and opportunity to do so. It was something that I've wanted to do since I was 7. So definitely excited, definitely happy that I got the chance to do that.
Yeah, that's insane, man. The fact that, well, first off, glad you're safe. You're okay. Glad
Dude, me
that
too.
I know you said you had to take a month, but luckily it was only a month.
Yeah,
And
and no broken ribs or nothing, man.
yeah,
So I'm very
like
lucky
that's
about that.
yeah, like well, well done for fighting through that. That is nuts. And you should be proud to tell that story too. That should be a proud moment sort of thing. A lot of people would take that as a moment of weakness or a failure or something, but that is something to consider to be quite an achievement in a sense, kind of something to be proud of, that you were okay afterwards. Okay, yeah, okay, you had to take a month, you're now more of a podcaster and you work on your audio dramas and stuff, but doing wrestling, you have those, the memories of all that and everything, you have the experience, and that's kind of also left you with like some form of doorway, that the doorway's still there if you ever, are able to go back, you could. And you've also now got some experience of wrestling, so when you do talk to these wrestlers on your podcast and stuff, if they I don't know anything about wrestling at all, I know nothing. If someone explained to me a very detailed, in grave detail, one of the most like intricate moves in wrestling, I wouldn't have any idea what the fuck you're talking about. But you
Yeah.
have that experience, so when a wrestler says, "Oh, I did this," and we almost fucked it up, you can sit there and go, "Okay, I know that
Yeah, man.
experience."
Yeah,
So, like, I'd take that as a positive.
definitely, definitely. It's something that I think a lot of people don't have a lot of knowledge about. And dude, I would love to be the one to introduce you to wrestling if you were open to it. But um, wrestling is something that I've had in my life like have had in my life all of my life, pretty much since I can remember. 7 years old. That's 1997 to current day. So I absolutely love wrestling. It's to me, people say, "Oh, you watch that fake stuff," And if someone did say that to me, I'd be like, "Yeah, it's fake, but it's not really fake. It's predetermined. The matches are predetermined." But I wouldn't even go that far. I'd probably just say, "Yeah, well, I see you're wearing a Rick and Morty shirt. That's fake too. What does it matter?" You know, they're
Yeah,
both shows for entertainment purposes. Wrestling is supposed to be a larger than life fight with these crazy heroes and villains. It's superhero stuff, man. It's like if you watch wrestling, there's a wrestler that is also an actor named The Rock. Dwayne Johnson. Everybody knows about. Finally, The Rock has come back
yeah,
home. He's The Rock. Anyways, he came back last year before WrestleMania, and the guy that won this big match, an elimination match with 30 other wrestlers. So at any point inside of this 20 by 20-foot ring, there could be anywhere between 10, 5, 2, 3. You could have any number of people in that ring fighting at the same time. And your goal is to throw your opponent over the top rope, and their both feet have to land on the ground. And if they do, they're eliminated from the match. But I want to say every 90 seconds, a new competitor comes in. All the way up until 30 people have entered the match. The last person in the ring wins, and they get a shot at any championship that they want at WrestleMania, which is the biggest event of the year, right? So in football, American football, you have the Super Bowl. In the NBA, you have the NBA. What is it? Championship? It may just be the NBA championship. I don't know. The Stanley Cup in hockey. That's the biggest thing you could possibly have in that. WrestleMania is the same thing for the WWE. And at this last WrestleMania, The Rock came back and sided with this guy who had held the biggest championship in the company for more than 2 years. And there's this other guy, Cody Rhodes. He came in from another company the year before, 2 years before, and he had lost the year before in this same exact spot in this same exact match. Cody Rhodes wins the Royal Rumble. 30 people over the top. He's the last one in the ring. So he goes to fight this guy named Roman Reigns, which is The Rock's cousin. And they have a match, they have a match at WrestleMania that had so many twists and turns because Roman Reigns is the leader of this group called the Bloodline. And you had Bloodline members coming in and attacking Cody Rhodes at the end of this match between Roman and Cody for the championship. You had people coming in attacking, and then you had people on Cody's side coming out running interference for Cody, helping him out. You know, you got two guys coming in. Well, we got two guys coming in as well. Just Cody's friends because he's a good guy, and Roman and The Rock were bad guys. So you have this giant war between these two people. They have sides where they're good and bad lined up with them. But you see all of these different people coming out to save the day. You see two legends return, like two people who have been known for years and years, like 10 plus years, two wrestlers come back for this one moment and help out Cody Rhodes to help him fight off people, the bad guys from Roman Reigns or whatever. And at the end of it, you see the person standing tall. You see Cody Rhodes standing tall with the championship above his head. Finally, after years of fighting to get to this point, he finally has won the championship that his dad, the legend Dusty Rhodes, never won. He won this championship that his father had never won. He holds it up because his father's passed away in 2015 to cancer. And, dude, it's a larger than life action movie. I want to call it my dad, I'm taking this from my dad. What it is a male soap opera. You get fighting, you get drama, you get pretty ladies, you get ladies that know how to fight, you get guys that are huge monsters, guys that are scary demons, guys that are like super fast, can fly around the ring and do all kinds of stuff. Then you got the guys who are just really loud. But the same goes for the girls in all of those areas. So you get this really cool superhero landscape set in a 20 by 20 ring, and you get to see the action and the stories all play out week by week. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I know quite a few, well, they're all Americans, but I know quite a few different podcasters that are into wrestlers, and Jared, he's part of Original Geek, the guy who actually got me into podcasting. He's also interviewed quite a lot of the good, I don't know how famous these wrestlers are, but I know they're pretty big names. So one last thing I wanted to ask you, at the end of your podcast, we did this at your podcast, and I won't do 3, but I'm really tempted to also ask this question now because I like it. You always ask your guests 3 things that they're grateful for, and you said to me that you always have the same 3, which is your support system, the person you're talking to, and like the guests that you've had, and the people that are willing to spend time with you, talk to you on your podcast, and then God, and which is awesome. I love the 3 you pick. But my question to you is, I want you to say something that you're grateful for that isn't one of the 3 that you normally say at the end of your podcast.
Cool. I'm grateful for the creativity that I have in my brain. Because if you don't have creativity and you're trying to succeed in any kind of thing of your own, whether it's a podcast, because you got to be super on your toes about designs. If you're going to do reels, when you're going to release, you got to be creative with how you talk to your guests and how you can relate to them, whether you know anything or nothing about any of it. You have to be able to have that creative juices in you. And it also helps whenever you're doing audio dramas, such like we do, Creativity is a huge thing. I'm very grateful for, excuse me, goodness, I guess I'm gassy. I'm sorry. That's like the 20th time I've done that. But you got to be super creative for the audio dramas that we do, because you draw creativity from everything, right? So movies, TV shows, if you're reading a comic book, reading a book, listening to an audio drama, anything, you got to be creative. You got to know what your characters, who your characters are, this and that. So creativity is something I'm very grateful for. I'm grateful for friends because, man, not even saying support system, friends, dude, because life would be so hard without friends. Like, I I'm very grateful that I've always had some friends, no matter what age I was, because I don't know how you did it for 16 years without having a friend. You told me this on my episode of the show that you were on, but I don't know how you went through life for 16 years without friends. That would be so hard. It feels so lonely, and I'm just grateful that I've never had to feel that feeling. And I really am grateful for having friends to goof off with, friends that are there for you when you talk. And friends don't have to just be non-related. Your family can be your friends as well. You know, it's not all or nothing, in my opinion, whenever it comes to friends and friendship. You got to be able to know that they're there in any way. You know, I can talk to some friends and just talk creatively about stories or about this or that. I can talk to other friends creatively just about wrestling or this or that. And then I have my friends like my friend Kyle that I talk to about nothing, nonsense, complete gibberish. You know, the first thing he tells me when I get on the phone with him, most of the time, I'll say something and he'll go, "Hey, that's not real. It's all ones and zeros. It's binary code." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he knows that'll get me to laugh, you know? So we talk like that. We go back and forth with Batman Forever, Batman, the 1989 Batman, and Batman and Robin quotes. No joke, back and forth. He'll go, he'll say something like, "It's the second day on the second week of whatever." No, he'll say the line that comes after that. Chase Meridian says it. He's like, "Well, let's just say I can write a hell of a paper on a man and dressed as a flying rodent," you know. And then I'll say, "Bats aren't rodents, doctor." You know, message back and forth, just stupid stuff that don't make any sense. Why would you do it? Because you have to have those kinds of people in your life, willing to just do nothing with you that makes sense. Just stupid, being ridiculous. Everybody has to allow themselves to be that way, I think, and friends are the best way to do that. But also, you get down. And then friends are there to talk, let you talk through it. Whether they say a word or not, they're there for you as a sounding board, as a vent, just like you're there for them for the same thing. Friends is definitely something that I'm very thankful for, very grateful for. I know you said you're not making me say 3, but look at me go. I'm on the 3rd one right now. Very grateful for my network. And what I mean by my network is just people I've met through podcasting in general. Because, dude, I've met so many people through podcasting. It's not even funny. Professional wrestlers, podcasters, audio drama makers, musicians, you know. I've met so many people that I never would have had that opportunity to meet if it wasn't for this network, for me being able to make the Adam Talks podcast. I wouldn't have actors that have joined up with me on audio dramas if it wasn't for the network that I've met through podcasting. So I'm very, very grateful to have that network of people at my back at all times. If I need something, I can talk to them. They invite me to things all the time, which I don't know about you, but it's always awesome whenever somebody invites you to do something that not everybody gets the chance to do, you know? Like, I'm sure it was on Facebook about the Forest of the Trees screening, but Jason messaged me personally and sent me the link, the director. And he's like, "I hope to see you there," you know? And I live in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So he's like, "Hey man, this is coming to your town. You should come and watch it," you know? Yeah, if I got the money for it, I definitely will. So, you know, he told me everything I needed to know. Sent me links for tickets, excuse me again. And that's something I wouldn't have got to do necessarily if I didn't have him in my life through the podcast. I wouldn't have gotten this awesome little clip of the voice of Megatron from Mark Thompson. He did the voice of Megatron and the voice of Casey Jones from the Ninja Turtles having a conversation. Because I asked him if he could do it. He said, "Yeah, sure." And that was on the episode. Wouldn't have got that tidbit of awesome audio if it wasn't for this network. If it wasn't for me going out all in, making the podcast, and being brave, knowing that I could do something like this. So I'm very grateful for the podcast network. Very grateful for you inviting me on here because, dude, let me just say this. You're always talking about people with less than 1,000 subscribers or followers. I think on YouTube, I'm at like 50. Just 50 people have subscribed. But you got to start somewhere, you know? So as far as the podcast goes, 50 people. I think I have less on the Shirley Boy Entertainment page. Then on Facebook, I have like 200. And I think I have like maybe less than that, I think, on the Shirley Boy Entertainment one as well. Instagram's about 75. What I'm saying is I don't have a super big following, a ton of people that watch my stuff or get to listen to it. So anytime I'm able to talk, network, share people that come on my show stuff, and have the chance for them to be able to hopefully share my stuff at some point as well for people to check out, dude, it's awesome. I'm very grateful that you asked me to come on and do this swap because much like our conversation last night, I feel like today we've had an awesome conversation, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say I'm grateful for you allowing me to come on your podcast, and us chatting and stuff. And I feel like we've kind of been planning this for a couple of weeks, and I feel like we've become good friends over the last couple of weeks and getting to know each other and things. I've started listening to your audio, your Batman audio drama, the one that's like kind of like the Ben Affleck sequel, which I actually have a little something to send you in a couple of weeks, relating to that, which you're not allowed to know about until it's done. And then you've come on to, I've got a guest coming on that I've also been interviewed by, which I always love doing that sort of thing. If I'm ever on a podcast, to me, it's only, in my right mind to go, hey, you took your time to talk to me. Do you want to do you want to come on and let, also, talk and stuff? I can give you a platform as well. So I like the fact that we're able to help each other out, get to know each other a bit more, and just have, like you said, just have a cool conversation at the same time.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Anytime, man. I like having conversations. I like talking to people. I think it's a lot of fun. Having that opportunity to be able to talk to people is that's the one thing I really love about podcast in general. I think the podcast in general is really just an awesome platform for people to meet each other. Not like in a weird way, but like being able to talk to each other and just get to know each other and become friends if that's possible for these people to get along in a conversation and whatnot. I think it's an awesome learning tool. Big podcasts are just amazing all the way around. And I'm very grateful that you gave me the opportunity to come on yours and just chat it up.
Yeah, we're definitely, at some point, down the year, we're definitely going to have you return and we can geek out about something, because we're both, massive superhero nerds and comic book nerds and things. So, we're definitely going to have to do a whole episode where we just spend an hour just geeking out about something in detail.
Definitely, man. Definitely. I had you. I think I did something that I don't normally do that I might try to start adding onto my podcast, just a goof off segment at the end of the interview where I goof off with my guests. Because that's what we did. That's what we did on my episode. We just chatted it up. I asked you your favorite three superhero movies between Marvel and DC, and I asked about 3 movies that people sleep on for Marvel and DC. Yeah. And we had just this fun conversation at the end that I absolutely love, man. So definitely want to come back on at some point.
Yeah, definitely. All right then, dude. Well, thank you very much for coming on and chatting with me. It's been an absolute blast. When it comes to yourself and the Adam Talks podcast and all that stuff, if people want to find you and your content, where can people do so?
Oh man, I am on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Facebook. And you can check out updates on Facebook
that may or may not go to Instagram. I'm unsure if whenever I post to Facebook, if it goes to Instagram. I know on my personal account it does. So if you go to, just look it up, Adam Talks Podcast, all one word, on any of those things, and you should be able to find my YouTube page like that. The Instagram page is that. I think there should be a TikTok page that has old videos on it. I have a TikTok as well. Follow me on that. But if you really want to check out the podcast, you can watch videos on YouTube. But if you're on the go, get on one of those other three things, and Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. Check it out. I don't know if you're going to have my logo on there. If I need to send it to you or whatever, I can. You're just looking for this little Adam Talks Podcast logo, and it's really cool. I do a lot of episodes. It's one episode every week at Friday on noon Central Standard Time for the United States, and it's awesome. I have a great time doing it. It's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see you guys on there commenting on it, commenting on videos, telling what you think about the show, whatever it may be. That's where I can be found, and I don't know how to wrap up.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone, of course, for listening. If you're on the podcast platforms, don't forget to rate us, or however that works. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. And of course, we love you all. We're of passion, everybody, and we shall see you guys in the next one.
What you have just listened to is a product created by the Three Ranger Bros Studio.
Hosted by three cosplaying fathers who
happen to be massive geeks of all sorts of fandoms.
They are Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger,
Cosplay Dude 637,
and Ty Tiger.
The studio covers different types of YouTube videos, TikToks, podcasts, and live streams.
If you wish to find out who cosplays who, the YouTube channels, the TikTok accounts, and the podcasts, and all of the other social media platforms,
please go to the 3rangerbrostudios.com.